Hey, welcome into the Snap Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Mac, joined today by my co-host, Lando, and we're here to cover you for Week 8 waivers. Now, you're probably coming here because you lost Odell Beckham Jr. on your fantasy rosters for the season with a torn ACL. You're probably coming here because you lost Kenyan Drake for a couple weeks. We have you covered. Chris Carson, we'll talk about the Seattle backfield as well. We're going to kick things off with the running back position because that is the most important position in fantasy football. It's the most sought after, and let's see if we can get you some home run hits mid-season to keep you on the course for fantasy success. Landon, at the running back position, who are you looking to spend your FAAB on this week at running back?
The number one priority I would be spending my FAAB on is Chase Edmonds, and he is on bye this week, but it's still going to be Chase Edmonds. He could be a league winner if you get him on your team. Now, he is 63% rostered, so in more competitive leagues, he's probably rostered already, but in shallow leagues, I'm willing to blow the bank, use your priority, and get Chase Edmonds on your squad. So my FAAB percentage is probably going to be close to, at this point, 40% of your FAAB on Chase Edmonds.
And in a deeper league, I think for the next couple weeks, it is worth going out and rostering Eno Benjamin, who will be a complement to Chase Edmonds during this time. Who knows what the workload will look like? But Eno Benjamin, the rookie running back that they took a shot on, is now he now has an opportunity. But the key here is Chase Edmonds is freed. And if you've been watching this show for a while, you've been following us on Twitter or Instagram at snap_fantasy, you know that we've been big Chase Edmonds proponents. He's finally free. He can do what we think he's able to do better than Kenyan Drake. And I mean, he's been more efficient. He's been more productive with his touches. I hope that the smaller sample size, when extrapolated to a larger opportunity, does pan out. I like the play, Lando. For me, I'm not trying to acquire a player going on to a bye, although I do think that's a sneaky little play given the timeline for Kenyan Drake. I'm going to pick up a guy that's coming off of his bye who doesn't have the easiest schedule. Is J.K. Dobbins for the Baltimore Ravens. J.K. Dobbins has the hardest schedule over the next 3 weeks with Pittsburgh, Indy, and New England. However, I think this is more of a long-term play, and I think with Mark Ingram being questionable to play this week against Pittsburgh, that it could be a dose of Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, and I'm really curious to see what J.K. can do with a bigger workload. We saw him explode a little bit in week 1 with 2 touchdowns, hasn't really done much since, but he's a very, very capable pass catcher, and I think a really talented running back, one of the best in the class in my opinion, coming into the league this year preseason. Looking down the road, why I kind of want to stash JK if you haven't been holding him this far, if you've kind of given up on him but you're willing to take him back, Cleveland, Jacksonville, New York Giants, his playoff matchups, that is the 5th easiest for running backs as of right now. I think by that time, J.K. Dobbins gets rocking and rolling, and you've got yourself potentially a league winner. I'm going to invest in J.K. now. I don't think it'll take a lot to get him. I think you're going to steal him if you get ahead of the game.
Now, Mackenzie, the Chris Carson mid-foot ankle sprain, not to be considered too significant, but what kind of FAAB would you be putting on Carlos Hyde? He's only 11% owned, and he should be considered as the lead back in Seattle.
And I do agree with you, Lando. I think if you are a Chris Carson owner right now, the designation is week to week, and who knows how long that could pan out. Chris Carson kind of just disappeared from this game on Sunday night, and it kind of left everyone saying, what begs? What's the deal? What happened to Chris Carson? Turns out he's got a lower body injury, and I would look to spend Lando for the next 3 weeks if I'm a team that has already lost some pieces and was relying on Chris Carson to be that running back one for me. I think you got to spend upwards of 10 to 15% to get Carlos Hyde on your roster because running backs are getting thin. So if I'm the Carson owner, that's what I would do. If you've got FAAB to spend, maybe you go out and you get that Carlos Hyde piece and you trade him to the Carson owner. A little bit of a savvy play there.
So that's a great call, Mac. And Next, I do want to ask about the San Francisco backfield. This past week, we thought it was going to be the Jerrick McKinnon show. It turns out that Shanahan just wanted to give him a little bit of a rest, which would have been nice to know for us Jerrick McKinnon owners, but so be it. It was Jeff Wilson. He looked great, but he went out with an ankle. Tevin Coleman is supposed to come back soon. What do you do with this backfield? Do you do anything? Do you pick up JaMycal Hasty or just hands off this really good running game for the Niners?
I mean, come on, Kyle. You should we play fantasy football here, man. A little bit of a heads up would have been great because I'm proclaiming to the world here to start Jerrick McKinnon, and you make me look like an idiot. I'm kidding. But no, Jeff Wilson kind of came out of nowhere, and JaMycal Hasty did look good in the limited work that he got. He is, in my mind, a pretty decent pass catcher and a pretty explosive runner in space. With that being said, I do think that it will be the Jerrick McKinnon show moving forward unless Kyle Shanahan has some tricks up his sleeve, but it should have been a Jerrick McKinnon game. There was no news to indicate that Jerrick McKinnon would be rested this week or last week, so I'm a little bit frustrated with that, but now with Jeff Wilson Jr. having a high ankle sprain, it should be the McKinnon, JaMycal Hasty, maybe Tevin Coleman show. I don't know if I want to be all in on this backfield, but the problem is it doesn't matter who it tends to be, whether it's Mostert, Coleman, McKinnon, Jeff Wilson, whoever is the lead dog here is having good games behind that San Francisco line.
Yeah, so I should mention the bye weeks for this week. We have Washington, Arizona, Jacksonville, and Houston on bye. So these might be we might have just some kind of pick up and play guys here going forward. Also, if you have specific questions about ad drops, make sure to drop into our DMs. We are snap_fantasy on Twitter and Instagram. We will get back to you. If you have some really tough ad drops that need kind of a little bit more consideration, get us on there and we will get back to you.
Before we get into the wide receivers and the tight ends here, we want to thank today's sponsor, which is Manscaped. They've been so kind as to hook our listeners up with a 20% off plus free shipping promotion with this code SNAP20 at checkout. Check out the Lawnmower 3.0. They've got a great sale on right now that involves that, their best-selling product with a free toiletry bag and many other goodies. You can visit them at www.manscaped.com and use the promo code SNAP20 at checkout to receive 20% off plus free shipping. Wide receivers, Landon, we lost Odell Beckham Jr., and that begs the question, is there somebody you're willing to try to get off the waiver wire that you think can fill in for him? Is it Rashard Higgins? Is it the rookie Donovan Peoples-Jones? Or are you trying to trade for Jarvis Landry? What is the answer here?
I am not picking up one of these Cleveland wide receivers. The ball's going to be spread out. If anything, it's going to be the tight end. It's going to be Harrison Bryant. I know I'm jumping ahead of it a little bit, but he is the only player that I would pick up off of waivers just because of the tight end position being so volatile as it is, touchdown dependent. We saw Harrison Bryant get 2 touchdowns in this game. Austin Hooper might miss a little bit more time. So Harrison Bryant, the explosive rookie, should be rostered, but I'm skipping ahead, Mac. Other than that, I'm not going to touch any Cleveland wide receivers.
And I tend to agree with that. Just to exactly the tune that you said, it's the position of tight end. I'm willing to take a shot on somebody like Harrison Bryant, who does have touchdown upside, who at the position doesn't hurt me as much if he puts up a 0 as it would at the wide receiver position. I like Brandon Ayuk as a pickup, and I know that this hurts because I just traded him to you, Landon. I had Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. I traded him to you stupidly, and I did it to get Latavius Murray as a handcuff, but that trade really hurts because this week I'm telling people it's time to get in on Brandon Ayuk with the limited running group that they're now working with him being used just like Deebo is, kind of in that jet sweep, backfield handoff, let him use his speed to get to the edge and let that zone run scheme really work. Brandon Ayuk is sort of a gadget guy that, like Laviska Shenault, is being used in multi facets. So I like Ayuk. Him and Chase Claypool are the only 2 non-running back players who have 2 rushing touchdowns. So that he's got a little bit of safety built into him as well. Are you kind of with me, Landon? I'd be willing to spend upwards of 10% to get Brandon Ayuk on the squad.
Totally. I would spend. He's my number one priority wide receiver right now. Not far behind. I mean, T.Y. Hilton is 64% owned on waivers. He was dropped due to a bye week, and he hasn't really been super productive, but he has that big name. He's worth a stash, but I just still wouldn't want to start a T.Y. Hilton if you have him, but I would start Brandon Ayuk. So that's why Ayuk is up there. Other wide receivers to consider, Cole Beasley and Nelson Agholar. You could probably get them if you're desperate for 1 to 3%, but the wide receiver position this week is nothing to write home about, and kind of that's pretty much it, Mac.
Yeah, Cole Beasley, 41% owned. He continues to be a very viable slot option for Josh Allen. Kind of when everything breaks down downfield, he's got Cole Beasley in the intermediate parts of the field and continues to hit him. He was over 100 yards last game, and it wasn't really one of those games where Cole Beasley jumped out to you. He just kind of quietly went about his day and kept the chains moving and put up 111 yards. So if you're in a pinch, you lost some receivers. You lost a DeAndre Hopkins or a Terry McLaurin, potentially a DJ Chark, Brandon Cooks. If you've been relying on these guys, maybe a Cole Beasley is a nice piece for you this week.
Absolutely. Moving on to the tight end position, my favorite tight end of the week, Richard Rodgers.
Don't.
Come on. He's only 9% owned.
You made fun of me last week when I said, if you have the kahunas to go out and roster and start Richard Rodgers, I think you might be pleasantly surprised. And you laughed at me.
I did. I had to see it before I could believe it. We can see Carson Wentz rely on the tight end, and it showed. He's probably available in your league. You could probably still get him for free because he doesn't have the name behind him, but he's a spot start if you're missing. You're probably not missing anyone from the tight end position. So if you have an injury, if you had, I guess, a Dalton Schultz and you don't want to play him again, I think Richard Rodgers is in an okay spot.
Dallas Goedert could also be coming back in about week 10. It's assumed right now. So keep your eye out for Dallas Goedert on your waiver wires. If he is sitting there, it might be ahead of a stash play, but in the coming weeks, Dallas Goedert will be the guy coming back ahead of Zach Ertz, healthy and ready to go. And he was, competing for that tight end one job in Philly, who Carson Wentz just seems to love, man.
Sorry, who is your favorite tight end pickup of the week, besides, I guess, Rodgers or Harrison Bryant that I mentioned earlier?
Yeah, I'm not willing to give up on Mike Gesicki yet. He's 66% owned. I think that there are some unknowns with Tua Tagovailoa coming into this offense and taking over for Ryan Fitzpatrick. However, Mike Gesicki is one of the most athletic tight ends, and I think Tua might favor him. So I kind of want to see him be used as a playmaker, a reliable target for Tua, and I guess we'll see. It's a risky play as of right now, but I think it might be worth picking him up and seeing what happens there. I don't know if I feel 100% confident starting him this week, given that they play the Rams, but it'll be interesting. It might be a nice stash play and see what happens.
So moving on to the quarterback position, Joe Burrow has been a phenomenal quarterback so far. He is a rookie that is lighting the world on fire right now. He put up 37.5 fantasy points this past week, and they played the Tennessee Titans. He would probably be my number one waiver wire quarterback this week. Now he goes on bye the next. So, it's a 1 week rental kind of thing for Burrow. But he's great. I think you got to light him up versus Tennessee. I would be putting 5 to 6% on Burrow just to make sure I got him. And he's a great spot, Mac. Do you have another option for the quarterback spot?
I think you can't really discredit or afford to forget about Teddy Bridgewater. I think so far he's been quite good, and I'm willing to start him this week. I know some people are going to be probably trigger happy to get in on the Tua train and see what that looks like, but going up against the Rams, who are the fifth best. They don't allow a lot to the fantasy quarterback. They are right now the fifth hardest matchup for opposing quarterbacks, and Tua's in tough against the Rams in his debut. I mean, he's got to face Aaron Donald in his first NFL matchup, so that's going to be tricky. But I think Teddy Bridgewater, for what he gives you from a mobility standpoint and the weapons he has in DJ Moore, Mike Davis, Robbie Anderson, big yards after catch guys week in and week out, I think that Teddy is a good play.
And against Atlanta,
I mean, how Atlanta can't win a game. They can't hold the lead, and they can't defend downfield. We saw that with the Lions, who were able to come back, seemingly improbable, as Todd Gurley accidentally scores a touchdown. It's a cushy matchup with a team that has a lot of weapons, and it's a divisional game. Anything can happen. I think Teddy is special this week.
Well, thanks guys for tuning in this week. Make sure to like this video if you like the content you're getting. Make sure to hit that subscribe button as well. Get us on social media at @snap_fantasy. Get into our DMs, like I said, and we will answer any specific questions you have. But thanks for coming by, and we will see you next week.